because
3-7.
Yeah, because I'm born on the 3rd of July. So 3rd and 7. Yeah.
I was born on the 3rd of July.
No.
Guys, I've got one of my favorite humans. Well, I like to call him young dude. Well, in comparison to my age, he is proper young, proper cool. And he's not the one that called me auntie the other day. He's one of the cool ones. So a few months ago, well, not that long to be fair, during Africa Fashion Week London last year, I met this amazing bloke that is called Adejosh Noni.
Yeah.
You know, and he kind of like reminds me of Ashake.
I get that.
I get that a lot. I think the face cap is sounding like covering his face a little bit, but he's one of the coolest guys on the books. Adejosh, please introduce yourself to Conversations with Bola.
Hello, it's your boy Adejosh, and I am with the big OG, the big boss, the one and only Bola.
Well, you just heard him say my name like I'm cool, okay? But Adejosh, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for coming through. I know you guys always have things on your calendar that you're doing, but it's so amazing to have you. Thank you so much.
Any time for you.
So, Adejosh, I'm going to just hop right in there because I'm really keen to get into your world.
Let's go.
So I know that when we met last year, it was all about, you know, the fact that you're in music, Afrobeat to be precise. What led you to Afrobeat music?
I'll say for me, it's growing up. I was raised in the UK, born in the UK.
To Nigerian parents?
Yes, to Nigerian parents. Now, we grew up in a place where being African wasn't cool. My parents and a lot of parents, people.
Is this in the 90s or?
In the 90s, yes, in the 90s. They focused on pleasing the white man. And why do I say that is we had our parents that will change how they speak when they're on the phone to someone else.
Are you joking?
And
do you know what we're going to do?
Which I completely understand, because they had to come to this country and find balance. However, the balance that was set didn't necessarily cater or nurture to their roots. So I was Nigerian at home, but I had to be someone else outside. It was okay for me to eat with my hands at home, but I had to eat with a knife and fork outside. And I was someone that I embrace roots. I care about history. I care about what makes you you. What did you go through? As a kid, I always loved history. So I was raised in a white garment church, and I played with a live band, which is Mr. Logo. And them two environments is what made me have the ear for music, the ear for the tongue, the ear for the language, the culture. And if I'm to be...
probably the nuances as well, how we are.
Yes, honestly, just...
White garment churches, doesn't matter where you go, it stays authentically Nigerian.
That's honest.
Honestly, that even just takes this conversation to a whole new level for me, because then I realize that you truly understand the essence of being a Nigerian son.
Of course.
Okay, tell me more.
So growing up, one thing I would say is I had to embrace, or even when I was learning about the Wasils, the Paso, the Obesity.
Okay, now.
My friends didn't get it.
Joking.
Yes, my friends, they didn't get it. But it was, again, just growing up, the Nigerian parties, the whole parties, the traditional parties, the naming ceremony.
Yes, sir.
They all played part in shaping me to understand the culture, the roots of Nigeria. I didn't go Nigeria for the first time until 2016.
Wow.
And that's
I mean, just going through a white garment church, you were already a full-on Nigerian.
The discipline of what?
And the realness.
Yes. It's one thing I love about white garment is, I'll say, the unfilteredness.
I think that's the right word.
Yes, it's
completely unfiltered.
It's very, they express, if they want to scream the name of Jesus, even when it comes to Jesus Christ, army, it's very, very much, very passionate. And again, there's a guy called Mr. Logo. He runs Team Logo. He's one of the first inspirations of who inspired me to sing, because when he sang with his spirit. It's, you always have your role model.
Like gospel music or
he does live band. He does live band, but he's also a gospel minister as well. With that being said, just seeing him sing, it's something that I really tapped into inspiration. So I knew whenever I sang, it had to come from the heart. So, and that's why my first tag, you know how everyone has their slogans. Ashaka is Mr. Money with the Vibe. My first tag was Adejosh now ni Baba God don't bless me yo.
Oh wow,
that was it. That was my first. But again, it's just through my experiences, the people God put on my plate. So yeah, that molded and shaped me.
Do you know, I love how almost everything you said here has had sort of like a God, comma, full stop, God, interlude, because I'm very much like that. And this is so refreshing for me because I asked you about something and you mentioned 3/7 and 3/7 is 3rd of July, which happens to be your birthday.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, my birthday as well. And I could have literally cried because for me, it kind of like explained why I had that immediate connect with you. And I don't get that with a lot of people. When I meet people, I know it's work. I know it's this. I know it's that. But when I met you, I liked you in a different way. I really wanted to see. And I remember that I told myself that I will keep praying for you until I see you on that big stage. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think just being born on the 3rd of July explains why God said, it's crazy. It's amazing. I really want to delve deeper into church life and parenting. Mm-hmm. I saw something you did on your, on your podcast, or maybe one of the podcasts you went on, that you spoke about how you had a dream about your GCSE results.
Yes.
And how a statement that is ultimately every Nigerian parents' behavior or reaction really hurt you. Yeah. And I literally forwarded it to my husband because I'm a Nigerian parent. Mm-hmm. My husband is a Nigerian parent. Mm-hmm. And when our parents did that to us, it was painful then. Yeah. But we thought we used it to become stronger. But I feel like your generation are more sensitive. Yeah. Because sometimes we say things thinking that you're ready to take it. So what do you think is different from your generation to ours that makes you guys remember things or hold on to things or even get hurt quicker than we were? We were like getting like these gas goes and next day we were over it. And the next day, but you guys seem to like internalize and feel the pain and cook in it longer.
What I would say with that is, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like our parents' generation, when they were getting onto them or correcting them, saying this is our expectation, is because mediocrity wasn't celebrated. So if you and your neighbor got the same results, you guys both got shouted at. However, in our generation, I will do better than someone else, but I'll get shouted at, and the person I done better than gets celebrated. So it makes me feel like I'm never good enough. So it's, again, more environmental. So if you have friends, and you know that you guys are all doing bad, you know that as a collective you get shouted at. Whereas if we are here and as a collective we're doing bad, there's still somebody that will be treated with grace. Whereas I don't feel like that was the energy we received. So it, rather than feeling like I care. So one thing I realized with this generation that we're in is correction is not a bad thing. It's mandatory for growth. However, you shouldn't correct from a place of expectation. One thing I've realized, that there's a difference between a leader and a boss.
Okay.
A boss just needs a job done. So the boss will only project its expectation. Whereas a leader cares about where you are at, and he would lead from the position of where you're at to push you up to the expectation.
Okay.
You see the two difference. So I feel like parenting in this generation, they need to take more of the leadership role rather than the boss role. If this is my expectation, you're not meeting my expectation, this is how I feel. Whereas you need to cater to see where that child is or whoever you're leading is and nurture from where they are at rather than where you expect them to be.
Okay, I hear you and I feel you, but for starters, I just want to throw this at you because it helps us, our generation, know what to do better. So in the voice of defense of our generation, I would say that when I say our generation, I'm 50, so turned 50 in July.
Congratulations.
So my first son is 20, and I'm sure you're obviously older than my first son. But the premise that we come from is that we're already softer than our own parents. So we're already, I mean, in my time, you would not catch a Nigerian kid with dreadlocks. Could possible. My younger son has a little afro. Could possible. My son comes out and tells me, Mommy, I'm going to Greece with my friends. He's not even asking me. He's telling me that I'm just saying in case you're trying to get my phone. Could possible. So we already feel like giving you so much room. Yet, it feels like you're throwing it back at us that we are like tough or our expectations. So, but we still want to do better because the pain we went through, we don't want to see it on our kids. Because I remember then that my father, he was an incredible man. Now I can look back and call him incredible. Then I just wanted to get away from him. Then I thought he was so tough. I thought he was always thinking about just how he felt about things. But now, I wish I could, I said, Daddy, just come. Let's just have this quick convo. You actually, because he wanted the best for us. But while we are here, and we're also marking our register that are we good parents, and we love to hear from, this kind of feedback because it helps us get better. But ultimately, what can we do to be better parents?
So, correct me if I'm wrong again, because I wouldn't know how you per se were raised. But from my little understanding of how I've dissected things is the lack of communication. And why do I say that is I grew up with my parents saying no, but not explaining the reason why. If I ask, Daddy, I want McDonald's. No. Or go and ask your mom. There's no explanation. As kids, we are left to fill in the missing blanks. Is it that they don't have money? Is it that they don't want to give us? Is it that they think we're spoiled? There was no clear communication, and it leaves almost every kid guessing. So I wanted to give a quick story time because you're speaking about hair. So when I was, let's say, 10, 12, my dad didn't like none of anything hair, plait, anything. However, I grew up in an era where all the cool boys in school, that's what they had. So I went to go and sleep at my auntie's house. And at my auntie's house, she said, okay, Josh, I asked, my mom was there. I was like, please, I want to plait my hair. My mom said, your dad will say no. But my mom ended up giving grace and my auntie plied my hair. The next day I went to church because I was sleeping at my auntie's house.
And you saw daddy there.
So
ooh la la.
My goal was to say, okay, dad, I know my dad won't beat me in church. We're in church environment. So I went to dad saying, hi dad. My dad just looked at me. He said, when we get home, I'll do with you. In my mind, I thought, at least he didn't slap me in church. So maybe I'm off the hook. I'm going to fast forward. In the car, my dad didn't say anything. I got home. Let's say we got home around 3 o'clock. My goal was just to make it till the next day. So what did I do? I went straight to bed. At 3 p.m., I went straight to bed. I just wanted to close my eyes so I can go to school. That's it. My dad tapped me, Josh, remove the thing from your head. It's like, no, I don't want to. My dad come back in 30 minutes. He dragged me from the bed. He sat on his bed. My hair is fresh. All I just had is clippers. And he just cut. He didn't even unplant it. He just cut. I had bald patches everywhere. But that is another moment that broke me. Why? Because it's something that I wanted. And again, there was just no explanation on why I couldn't have it. I had to think, why? And it was like, my dad was okay seeing me bald, knowing that when I go to school, people are laughing at me saying, look at your head. So again, I feel like where the disconnect happens is just the lack of communication. I would have preferred if my parents said, Josh, I would love to give this to you, but we don't have the finances right now. I would prefer to understand their truth, because that's one thing I feel like.
What if, well, I get you, but what if I told you that you guys even have it good that you're expecting answers, you're expecting
communication.
My time.
You can't get out.
Since you gave me story time, let me give you one story time. So just for you to get the disconnect in age. So my dad would drive up and we would hear, because his car had a particular way of sounding. Be like, woo, we'll hear and we're like, dad is coming. And what that meant was everybody disappear. So I had, 6 of us, right? We just, everybody would disappear. So one day, one of us was bold and like, why do we always run? So my dad would come to the living room and he always expected that nobody was there, because the way we showed respect was everybody disappear, don't show up, don't speak until you're spoken to. Then one day we all said, it's true, why do we run? Then we all stayed there. And then my dad entered and said, what manner of boldness am I liar? Which means you are brazen and bold enough to hear my car and you did not disappear? Can you see the difference? You guys are still waiting for question time.
But I want to ask you a question with that same story time. You realize that you got to a point and say, why are we running? Now, did you ever think, why was my dad angry that he saw me in the living room?
I don't even think we even had time to think at that time. There were rules, there were spoken rules. There were things like when our parents said, sweep, you swept.
Yeah.
You sweep first and then you come back and say that, why did you ask? You didn't even have to ask. You just did it because they'll be like, you don't be feeling it, then go feel it. That one. Maybe that's where they roll out the slap for you, then go running. But you just didn't ask. And it was generation to generation. And there's even a Yoruba adage that, they would say that someone older than you never lies, which obviously is a lie. But you never said that. There were things that were unspoken rules that was passed down generation to generation. And my generation and possibly the one before me, like my older sisters, I would probably, account for your kind of like age group, will probably have had the same experience as me, had an offline WhatsApp meeting that we're going to be better.
Yes.
So we're living our better.
Yes.
Yet you guys are saying we're tough.
Well, but again, it's like the advancement of technology. There's always room for growth. And that's why I was going back to communication, because I believe...
Could it also be that perhaps because you guys are listening to more voices than we had? Because our time, we didn't have Instagram. What your mom said and what your dad said was final. But you guys will go and check Google. You will ask Instagram. You will ask a friend. You will ask an auntie. You will ask. So you were, or you are more informed.
Yes, knowledge is power.
And you're asking like, but why? It's no big deal. It's just a Big Mac.
And again, that's why I do believe communication is the clearest form to actually gain clarity in any situation or to gain understanding. So that's why I'm very, very heavy on communicating. However, I do understand the value of discipline. Like I was raised and I was beaten. Black, white and blue.
Welcome to our world.
Do you know what I'm saying? However, I understand the power in going through things. So I always say, if you want to see God's characteristics, look at how he's designed life. It's like pregnancy. You have to go through 9 months and even the pain of labor before you receive joy. They say that pressure makes diamonds. So it's like gym. When you go to the gym, your body aches. You don't like the process of things. However, what you receive, what you gain from the process is beyond what you can even imagine.
I love that coming from you, because we don't get this kind of level of wisdom from a young man and ultimately someone that's grown in the UK. So I get everything you're saying and I can feel the pain, and I do not take it lightly, even though I laugh. I laugh because I went through the same thing and I ran away, or in my mind looked forward to a time where I would have my own autonomy, to have my own space, my own life, make my own decisions. But if I roll back a bit to when you had your hair cut off, how did you get through that at school? How was the day? How did you reconcile with your dad? How was that bridge mended?
I was convinced my dad hated me that day. Even, I shouldn't say it, but even my mum, when she saw that my hair had both patches, she said, I want a divorce. They didn't divorce, glory be to God. But we left the house that day. Me and my mum, we left the house, and I got bullied in school, in the sense of it's a normal thing. If you have bad hair in school, they will laugh at you. However, for a very long time, it was because my heart was set on like just fitting in. Now, I was having this conversation. I thank God that my dad done that, because I feel like if I was able to get my hair plaited, it could have shaped me in a way where I look so much to people pleasing and people praise rather than finding out who I am for myself. So sometimes you need to be stripped of the things you look up to for you to realize what you have. And that's what, looking back now, at the moment, me and my dad, we didn't really see face to face. Of course, he's the man of the house. I can't find my dad. You know what I'm saying? But growing up made me realize that had to happen. God puts you through journeys that will humble you, because if you receive what you want, it's easy to manipulate the grace that's around you.
Okay, let's talk a little bit, and I love everything you're saying, but I want to talk a little bit about you going from Josh to Adejosh.
Okay.
And I say that because my first son, I remember that we went through a period where he always hated being described as a Nigerian. So he went through this period where he would just be like, I'm Black British. I'm Black, and I'll be like, you are Nigerian. And you'll be like, no, I'm not Nigerian. I've never been to Nigeria. And then one day he went to school and I don't know what happened. And then he was talking about Davido and, you know, Burna Boy saying, we Nigerians at school got together. And I was like, shock, horror. When did you become a Nigerian? And he burst out laughing because he knew, you know, and I kind of like get it that Afrobeat has kind of like played a role 100%. In self-acceptance for a lot of African kids that try to escape that African label. So how did you get through that? How did you start to embrace your Adeness, or do you think that was already in you because of your church journey?
No. I remember when I was in primary school, I wanted to spike my hair. I wanted to fit in so bad, but my transition, first and foremost, with Joshua to Adejosh was one, God. I was very disconnected with God, and for a very long time I didn't hear from him. And I just remember there was a day that he said, I'm going to bring you back to singing. And I laughed at him because I said, I'm not Justin Bieber, I'm not JLS, I can't do all that. No. And God said, you'll see. And then shortly after that, but now going back to what you're saying, it's environment. And why do I say environment? So my uncle or my cousin is Shinopella. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So growing up around him, they liked to party. They were very, very into the Fuji music.
And very Lagos.
Yes, very, very Lagos.
Well known, yeah.
So with that being said, I just knew that these are the cool guys. These are the cool uncles. So anything they wanted to do as a kid, I always wanted to do what the people older than me were doing. So anything they wanted to do, I always embraced. So it got to a point when I was even in sixth form college and I'm listening to the Wasils on my MP3 or iPod. And my friends did
you picked up from church.
Yes,
let's go there.
But my environment didn't understand. And I remember, when it goes back down to church, my church environment, it was okay for us to be Nigerian in that environment. The reason why I accepted it is because I was in an environment where it was okay to eat like this. You know what I'm saying?
That's your age that we're experiencing the same thing.
That is it. So it was like we all understood that okay, there's balance. And when we go to school or whatnot, they can call us. There's some people that I know their name is Opeyemi, but in school they're known as Joyce. So however,
so you were living the same experience as these other guys.
So again, the environment, just knowing that when we come together, we were proud to be who we are. We were proud to sing in Yoruba. We were proud to communicate in Yoruba. Even as small as Nollywood, Ben TV. These are things that
you were on it. Yes, I love it.
They allowed us to really appreciate where we come from. The movies, The Two Rats, Baby Police, all of these things, even Sophia in London, all of these things, like, they helped us. And again, for a lot of us that we weren't raised back home, these were the small things that give us a taste of what home felt like. So again, when Afrobeats now come into play, and this is why I have to always shout out, there's a guy called Sona. He done Baba mi Jojo, Tekajijo Sona Dada, and No Wahala. So he's a UK Nigerian artist, and even seeing him, he was therefore a source of life. One thing, remember I was saying, when God said, I'm bringing you back to music, I said, I'm not JLS. I am not. However, I saw Wizkid and Davido, and they were source of inspiration to me to know that you don't need to sound like Beyonce. Just work with the gift God has given you, and that will make room for you. So again, when the Davidos, the Wizkids, even the Olamides were paving way, it was like, wow. I relate to this, I connect to this, and I found the bonus of learning. That's why you were talking about confidence.
Yeah.
You have to learn who you are.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think they know who they are without deep in that. There's a process in learning who.
And there's a lot of internal work.
That's
a lot of quietening the noise around you to hear yourself thinking.
And that's the journey I had to go on. I had to realize that my truth is, my name is Joshua, but by blood I'm Nigerian, but I was raised in the UK. So I realized Wizkid can sing New Drew Alabao. But I can't sing that because yes, but I can't. My story wasn't that. My story was that by blood I'm Nigerian, but I'm raised here. I lived 2 lives of seeing UK culture and seeing Nigerian culture, and that's what gave the birth of Adejosh. Is me accepting my truth of reality. Of I can't say that I'm from Surulere, but I can say that, you know, I was raised in the UK.
How recent was that?
That was 2014. That's when I first decided that I'm going to be an artist. And that's when Adejosh Nani, Baba God don't bless me, or no one sat me down to even learn Pidgin is what I picked up. And even when I go to Nigeria, they'll say my Pidgin sounds like I'm Ghanaian. So, but at the same time, again, I've learned to embrace my truth. And that's why I realized whoever you are, and I'll talk to the camera, whoever you are in life, your only job in life is to tell your truth.
Absolutely.
Your truth might not be someone else's truth, but your truth is directly for you to tell. So yeah.
I love it because this is one of the teachings that I'm putting out there, that everything and every step that you've taken in life up until this moment is taking you somewhere. Is taking you ultimately towards the dream and the plan that God had for you. But one of the things I really loved hearing you say is that you heard God say. And I think that for a lot of people that live outside of the church, they don't understand this concept of God saying or God speaking, and they're like, how did God speak to you? So I want you to break that down a little bit for because I know I say it quite a lot, and when people try to tackle me on that, I'm like, I look at which is a little bit horrible, but I look at their level of maturity and I'm like, don't worry about it. Yeah. And then I just avoid having this conversation with people that I feel will not get me. But I become really comfortable when I understand that this person is a Christian. But as you're younger, I'm going to put it on you and say that when people say to you that you heard God saying, how does that feel? What do you mean when you say that you heard God said that he was taking you back to music? Was this through a dream? Was this through a voice? Was it through your inner compass? What was it for you?
It was through a voice, and at the period when God said these things to me, I was very disconnected. So I'll give a backstory. There was a warning. Go into White Garment Church, you hear prophecies, you hear messages. And there was a warning, and God was very direct on the warning and said, this is going to happen. And if this person does this, he or she will feel my anger. And I'm young. And with me, I'm thinking, it can't be me. However, a week later, I found out that it was me.
Wow.
And I tried to do everything in my power not to go against God. But the storyline was that I went against God. And how that felt is I felt I was naked. I couldn't hear anything. Me and God, I've always heard or had a connection. So when I say had a connection, it was I knew of God. I didn't know who he was. There's a difference. I didn't understand God's love language. I wasn't catering to his need, but I knew he exists. So I will hear through that channel of connection. Now, fast forward. I had about 2 to 3 years of just emptiness. It felt like God removed his Holy Spirit from me. I was so numb. I started doing a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing, as small as selling drugs, as small. I was so angry with God to the point that my communication with God is like, I said some things that God was saying, you're eligible to go to hellfire. However,
He preserved.
I was playing in church because my friend just asked me, please play keyboard in a church. And I remember I'm playing keyboard and I'm feeling, why am I even here? I can't feel anything. There's nothing. Like, I was in the church playing, but I wasn't in the church. And then I just, for the first time, it's like, I heard a voice saying, I'm going to bring you back to singing. And I naturally thought it was me that was talking. And that's why I laughed. I was just like, whatever. I'm not JLS. I'm not. And within the year after, I dropped music. Now, how God orchestrated that period is, one thing I've realized about my life and why I talk and claim on God is I don't orchestrate anything. I don't orchestrate the nails I have, the voice I have, how I look, my toes. I didn't orchestrate nothing. So how God works with me is he orchestrates. So when it comes down to it, I remember that I was in uni. 2 days before I recorded a song, someone just come to me saying, I've got a studio in my house if you ever want to record. I just said,
that came out of nowhere.
Nowhere. So there was another guy that asked, Josh, I would love to make a song with you. He's never heard me sing. Something just told him, I want to make music with you. So cut long story short, I remember I ended up, there was a particular day, I think it was April the 7th. I was just annoyed in spirit and I went into my room and my phone accidentally synced to my friend's computer 2 years ago.
Wow.
That's where I found my first beat that I ever recorded on.
Wow.
Now, again,
Incredible.
God orchestrated everything.
You know, I just need to believe that because I know that God has a way of doing some things or just kind of like bringing two things together that you're like, that's weird. Well, that's God.
It's not, that's why everything that I've seen, even down to me being on the fashion show, the African Fashion Week, I didn't ask for the opportunity. God said, and it was so perfect. And last year, the start of last year, my first 6 months was terrible. I was working 4 jobs and I was asking God, what's going on? God, you give me promises and my reality doesn't look like my promises.
It's crazy because I'll tell you what happened with Africa Fashion Week London. So we were going to do this show and we wanted someone from the Afrobeat scene. So we know the people that own Rugged Fest, the event organizers.
Yes, okay.
And somehow we reached out to them and said we want an Afrobeat music type musician or artist, or I don't know what you guys call yourselves these days because it's changing up on us. And somehow someone said, oh, would you like Adejosh? And I'm like, okay, his name sounds interesting. And they're like, okay, we'll send you his number. And that was it. So this is why I said that I believe what you say, because sometimes I always believe that God will just drop your name in people's consciousness. You didn't know how it happened, but he will just drop your name on a table that could literally maybe not be the ultimate place you're going, but will lead you to the person that will lead you to the next door, that will lead you to the... Because for me in life, that's how God has dealt with me. I always say to people that God reveals in parts. I think he's like the ultimate like filmmaker, like, and then kind of just take it to another scene and you're like, yes, this is it. Okay. And then you just go through something like, he's the ultimate, imagine when, the river was parting, one of the people be like, wow, I got you. And then Farrah and the rest of them tries to come in and like, no. He's just the ultimate, like creator of scenes, and he just loves to see it. And we just know that we're one of his, and he moves us around, protecting us, guiding us, and he will take us to that place eventually where you look back and it's all starting to make sense. Like what happened here today, where I'm like, why do I just like this guy? Why does he remind me of Ashake? Why do I care about his music? Why do I want to see him win? And now it makes sense that maybe because we were born on the same day, and somehow, I kind of like feel like, thank you, God.
Honestly, like,
I feel like guardian auntie.
Trust me. And one thing I do want to add to that is equivalent to what you're saying. I always say God is the greatest director.
Absolutely.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. So even whenever I go through anything, there's a Bible verse that I always hold on to. When God says that he doesn't sleep or slumber. So I always know that God is very, very much aware. So rather than asking why, I tell God, what do you want me to learn in this season?
Absolutely. I love that level of wisdom. And just to buttress what you said, when, we're put in the fire and things happen to us, I always remind people that things don't happen to you. Things happen for you. Because number one, it helps you build that muscle for the next place is taking you, because the next place probably requires that level of maturity. He helps you build your confidence because God cares about leadership and he cares about the impression we're giving off to that place is taking you. So he doesn't want you to show up wimping out. He wants you to show up remembering that you are the son of a king. So everything you needed to do when you thought you were supposed to be back, you've gone through that. Nobody needs, in Nigeria, and I don't know if here as well, kings don't eat in public.
Oh, yes, I've heard that.
Even the princes, they're not allowed to cry in public because as sons of royalty, nobody sees that vulnerability. You show up. And many times, the family setting always reminds me of, how God sees us and how he constantly wants to remind us, first of order, of us respecting authority, which is why he says that honor your mother and father, because sometimes they got no time to explain like you guys are expecting. And just to trust the process. I think that's ultimately how African parents deal with things. Just off camera, when our ultimate superhero behind the camera had to change the cards, we had a small talk as to why some of our parents or the generation that your parents represent went through was that. Ultimately, their own parents did not stay. They came, studied, remembered that they were kings, princes, where they came from, and they were like, we're out. When we came, we had no house, no home, nothing inherited, right? So we had to build everything from the ground up. We had the pressure of showing up at work, good, bad, ugly. But we kind of like subliminally pass down that pressure to our kids, thinking that if we show up anywhere rugged, may our kids never look rugged. So in defense of your dad and what he did, which when my brother did the same in Nigeria, I came home with his hair woven. All we just heard was, my dad came back, saw my brother's hair with his hair over. He did not even explain. He didn't even say, why is your hair woven? We just said, and we all screaming like, don't kill him. My dad was so enraged that, how dare you be bold to weave your hair and come to this house? So the fact that your dad was even saying, take it out.
That's grace. Your hair is grace.
But you didn't recognize it, right?
Yes, I did.
So I'm not defending that he cut your hair anyhow. But on behalf of African parents, shoot me a question.
So on behalf of African parents, I would like to know, again, you said that the generation before your generation, they got the education and said, nope, I'm a king, going back. So for your generation of people that decided, I am going to stay here and I am going to raise kids here, what is your truth behind it? Like, what would you want my generation and the younger generation to know about how you've shown us love, whether that is making us understand that we are your investment and the sacrifices you have made for us to actually understand. Because again, I feel like we need to communicate and understand your truth, so we know that what we receive doesn't come from a place of hate or from a place of disconnect, but a place where there's a balance in understanding your truth.
Okay, so thank you so much, and I hope I don't let any African parents or anyone down. So I'm gonna just drop this card for a minute and just use my hands in true African gestures. So basically, when we decided to stay, and I hope I'm speaking for my generation and the one before, and I hope if I miss it, they come in and help. When we decided to stay, we had it was a tough decision to make. First of all, we all thought we were coming to study and go back. But I'll probably want to call that generation the first lot of jackpots. Because now they're going through Jackpot 1 version 3. They think it's Jackpot version 1. No. There was version 1, version 2, and maybe version 3 now. With version 1, Jackpot, and I'm not talking about the parents that went back because they didn't think they were kings. Basically, every Nigerian, because we had so many kings and, provinces and all of that, everybody was almost like 3 people away from being related to a king. So we all grew up with, I'm the son of this person. I'm the child. So your parents would literally come home and see somebody in your house and they'd be like, Omotanye, who are you? So everybody could almost be traced to a royal house or to a chieftaincy house or something. We all grew up feeling like, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And then we come into this country where they're almost telling us that we're nothing. And we're constantly having to renew our strength because we cannot be broken. And we're like, I am, and I will not be spoken to in this way. But at some point we thought, at the end of the day, we have to provide for our children. So sometimes we hang this our I amness for our small communities, maybe in church where we feel more understood. But I think in a way it became tough on our kids because we had to show up at work.
Yeah.
We had to get the business done. We can't start answering all these questions because we didn't even have the opportunity to ask our parents. So for us, we were doing our best. We were even really super giving you long ropes. And for us, you were our greatest and still are our best investment. Because oftentimes, our parents, and myself included, have to show up, make that money, buy that house because we were left with nothing. We came into this country having to build ourselves from zero. Show up at work. How many times you want to be explaining to people when we are already on the rules that we can't come with our scarf, we can't come with our hair woven. We know we're going to show up at work rugged. And don't forget, at that time, Generation Jackpot 101 had terrible jobs. Nobody, not a lot of them got that office job.
Cleaners.
So they had to do things that they were not very proud of. It was Jackpot Generation 2 that some of them managed to sneak their way into office desks and then filtered this info down that, we're entering offices now. So the ones that were in, doing all the odd jobs, cleaning and all of that, you guys, our children, are ultimate pearls that we want to make sure that even if we can't show up 100%, your generation would not miss it. We wanted the best education for you guys. We wanted for you that when we show up somewhere in our African accents and they're judging us by our African accents, our children will one day grow up and we'll be able to push them in front of Oyibo you want to speak.
Don't worry.
Joshua, because we've spent our blood, we've spent our time building you guys up. And that's the heart I want the younger generation to see. That when every African parent, and I love this African parent tag because it's actually quite sweet, because it means in your mind you understand our nuances, our awareness, and you've put it in this place where it helps you deal with it better. But I want you to see everything that an African parent does as them doing everything because we want the best for you. And in there is actually packaged this deal that is a softer side of that Jackpot generation that's, 101 and the one before that were like kings and queens and all of that. So we are like, maybe your generation will be kind of softer because you guys ultimately are like generally softer.
Yeah.
Like very soft. You guys are like talking, different things that are going through that are valid. But our time, we didn't even know what, having depression was. The Nigerian was never seen as depressed. They will slap you out of you. Depressed, but they send you to the village, send you to one uncle that they know that uncle will beat you out or put you down somewhere for like 7 days, fix you up. So your generation is open to more care, more of a listening ear. And don't forget, you guys have better jobs. You have better paths. You're choosing better. We're in a world where fairness matters now. Yeah. People are not generally... When I came, in fact, I'm hesitating now because when I came, my name was Daniela to be able to get a job. I went to the office one day. And my boss was like, Daniela.
And you did.
I didn't even know that
Daniela, I'm calling you.
Yes. Me that they did not name Daniela in Nigeria. These are the things that we had to go through.
But also, first and foremost, what I'll even say is, for every generation that's come here and had to find balance, on behalf of all the generation, those who want to believe, those who don't want to believe, we want to say we appreciate you.
Please, louder. We need our flowers already.
We appreciate you because we know it's difficult. And sometimes changing normality to look for better is always going to be a push. So we want to say we commend you on your strength. And we want to give you your flowers for every parent that feels disappointed that the investment hasn't felt like it's come back in return. I would like to say, God will give you your return in strength and in glory.
Amen.
Yes. So,
on behalf of African Parents, thank you so much. Please tell your mom and dad at home how much you love them. And sometimes I know that your generation, sometimes it kind of feels like, you will be saying that you are parents and be feeling entitled. If only we had movies to show you the battles that we took and all the things that you have to thank you after. Oh God, let's not even start with the stories again. But you know what? Honestly, thank you. For every African parent there, Josh has just sent you flowers. Please collect it. Before they understand our story, one day they will get us.
But what I would like to also add in regards to like just progressing is the same way you said once upon a time to find balance your name had to be Daniela. It's our obligation, all Nigerians in the diaspora back home, to be proud of who we are.
Absolutely. I think we went to that era where that pride is so real. I think Afrobeat.
And that's what I was saying is, the only thing in this generation that I'll say is really keeping our roots alive is Afrobeats and weddings.
And our food.
And our food, yes. And our food, I cannot forget that. But that is what is keeping the roots, our fathers, our forefathers laid. And it's our obligation to continue to wave the flag proud.
Absolutely.
So,
I think this is the one thing I love about your generation, if we're talking generation, is the fact that it didn't take you guys long to appreciate the green, white, green, to appreciate our journey, our story. And even when I see that the work that you guys do, how you try to relate it and even discover home, it's beautiful to see. And it's a thing of joy for our parents because it makes us feel that we didn't lose the way, because oftentimes we think that because we're a lot more lenient, that maybe that's why our parents, our children look us in the face and have an argument, and because then we couldn't do it. We couldn't. You just couldn't. So to a level, we see you guys, we admire you, we admire the fact that you question things, we admire the fact that when we say don't go there, you ask why, because we think it's beautiful. But there's also this side of us that wants to see that you acknowledge us as your parents and you show a level of respect and order, because that's what we understand. That when I tell you to do something, it's not to show that we have no respect for your opinion, but it's that you acknowledge order and authority.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think that's what we would like to see more. So when we say, don't do this, don't fly, tell us this, tell us that, there's already that grace that we give you, that you're in a different environment. But just make us feel like we matter.
And what I'll also add to that is, again, for my generation and anyone below, I feel like it's our responsibility to complete the mission the first generation of Japa didn't complete, and that is the information and the things we're able to learn here, take it back home and create the change.
Absolutely.
Because this is the essence of the investment, is to be able to bring change at the end of the day. Oh yeah.
One of the biggest prayers that gets said onto people when they give birth, or when people become of age and they're talking all wise and you're getting married, one of the biggest prayers in the Yoruba community is that Wajere Omo.
Yeah.
That means that may you benefit from all the investment that you've made in this child. That Jeriomo, sometimes people misunderstand it like you take their money. It's not really all about money. It's about looking at your child and seeing them live a good life. It's about looking at them and seeing that even though you might not have achieved everything you wanted, you see your child do well. And sometimes when you make that kind of investment, there's a part of us that wants you to look back and say thank you.
Yeah.
That wants you to come back and just give them a hug, because most likely your parents are bringing their own cheddar. They're like, is that still used? Is that slang still used? I mean, it's still bringing their own cheddar. They're still bringing their own cheddar, but just ultimately getting that thank you that they probably didn't get at work, for that degree that they struggled to get, that they never got to use because they had to do 3 jobs to make sure that you were sent to that private school, or maybe not even that private school, to get you through whatever you got through that winter that they didn't bargain for. That walk to school that a driver would have probably taken them if they stayed back home. Just think about everything that they would have had easier as princes and kings that we are.
Yeah, trust me.
That we gave up because we wanted you guys to stand shoulder to shoulder to anyone worldwide. Honestly, you can say that it is our job because we're your parents, but trust me, it's a sacrifice. There are lots of people that have kids that just have kids and, forget. But if your parents stayed back to make sure that you're good, please give your parents their flowers. And all right?
That's a task for anyone that's watching. If your parent is alive, tell them you love them today. And if they're not alive, go back and give thanks to God in prayer.
and your generation,
Yes.
maybe not everybody, will probably end up inheriting a property, inheriting something because we bothered to stay, unlike our own parents that went back and left you guys on zero. We bothered to stay, we bothered to build, we bothered to invest. So we're doing big, even though one day I said to my son, all this work I'm doing for you is all for you. One day I'll leave this house for you. You know what my son said?
I don't want this.
I don't want it. I'm going to sell it. Forget I busted myself.
No.
The house I have been sleeplessly doing that. Your brother will share. I don't want it.
But
I'm going to sell it.
But the equivalent is, and one thing is, I believe they say there's nothing new under the sun. The same way you've got to a place where you can look back at your dad and say, you know what? I appreciate this. A time will come where there's a biting point that he looks around and says, I am so grateful that my mother left me this house.
I hope so. Toby, can you hear? And I said, come and tell me, I'm going to Greece. In fact, I'm going to put you on. This is your new big brother. He's going to fix you up for me.
Hey, trust me.
Okay. So there's this thing I like to do because we're trying to roll it down now that I call the quick fire.
Okay.
So how it works is that I just say a word and you tell me 2 sentences, don't explain, that comes to mind.
Okay.
Sex.
Man, I'm female.
Marriage.
Covenant between God and man in union.
Love.
Sacrifice.
School.
Learning.
African parents.
Tough love.
Ashake.
Oh, the modern day educator of our roots.
Burna Boy.
Yes, sir.
London.
Half of my home.
Mandem.
The guys.
Riz. What does that even mean?
Riz is like, if I want to toast somebody, it's like how is the toasting.
So I've been using the wrong goodness. I thought Riz meant
no, Riz is toasting. It's like
sauce.
If they say do you have Riz, it's like can you toast?
Somebody know God think I've been toasting him. Oh Jesus.
Well, yeah, Riz game. So it's like play a game.
Right. Black.
Proud.
Black girls.
Beautiful.
Church.
Home.
5 years.
I've got a 5-year plan, so to me I'll say destination.
Home.
God.
The journey.
The process.
What next?
God knows, but all I know is dedication, hard work, and movement, progression.
Project 37.
My life, my story, and what I want people to know, and hopefully what people can learn from.
Music.
Music, food to the soul.
How you feel right now?
Blessed.
Siblings.
Being a role model and a mentor.
Church.
Again, church. Training ground.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I missed asking you about a project you're working on with the prison network.
Oh, yes.
So I didn't want to just bring prison because I don't want people to think you're a bad one.
No.
I don't want them to think you're a wild one. So, let's just quickly touch on the work you're doing with the prison service.
So, again, just to paint a picture, I have been given the grace to run my own music course in prison, where I teach the boys about the game, but more especially I teach them about understanding themselves, expression, and finding their own voice. And that's why it goes back in line to the African Fashion Week London, because the clothes that you gave me, and it was that week I started,
Wow.
The glow you give me. To me, it was more of a spiritual translation of you are now going to walk like a king.
Shit.
And that's why it's like I realized that God was pushing me more into a leadership. And yeah, so what I do in prison is, again, just educating boys on how to make music, how to be a real authentic artist. I always tell my boys there's a difference. Anyone could be an artist, but it's cutting the real away from the fake. So yeah, it's my own way of giving back, and it honestly feeds my soul, seeing how people are able to humble every bad boy persona they have and actually just lock in and find themselves. And it's not about I done this, I make sure that it's music that has meaning, music that feeds the soul, and music that they will be proud to stand behind. So
I love that. And you said something that really touched me, and I know that coming into this new year, I spent a lot of time personally in prayers. And one of the things I wanted God to show me apart from the fact that I turned 50, is that I wanted him to show me the path for this year. And one of the things God was telling me was to step more into leadership. And I love the fact that you mentioned leadership. And I feel, I've been hearing this, around a lot about us taking a position that, assumes that everything that we've learned up until this point, no matter how we feel prepared or unprepared, we are equipped enough to hold other people's hands to this point. So this is like completely unplanned weirdness, and I'm going through so much emotions now that I feel that I have to have you back.
Of course.
Because I want to unpack a lot of things with you. So you are going to see Adejosh next week. So if you want to follow this conversation, it would be on a lighter note because it will be with my colleague Abby over on the other side at Seriously Donuts, where we'll have a bit more laughs. I think we're a bit too serious here, but I think I would love to unpack it there. Of course. And yeah, African Parents, Adejosh is going to come and give you lesson 101 of parenting, and also to help us if you feel like you're also going into a season of leadership, or you have a young leader in your building. I would want you to please make sure you catch us next week. Thank you so much, Adejosh. I feel so privileged.
I'm so glad.
And I feel like, God's, I always say sense of humor, even though it's not funny, but I always love how he's like the ultimate puzzle maker and put together and covering, and wow, this is incredible. I'm just so happy that I finally got to the bottom of why I find you one of my favorite artists. So if you guys are not following Adejosh yet, please follow him at Adejosh. Yeah, he's going to be the next big thing. He's already the next big thing. It's now up to you to open your eyes and see and lock in and get the autograph now while we can.
That's what we talk about.
All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. You're amazing.
You are loved so much. See you guys until next week. Bye-bye.